Welcome to my studio. I'm Aaronson. It's very nice to see you all here. I got into glass just quite by chance. I had a degree in international relations and I was going to carry on studying, and my mother started a shop and gallery selling some modern china and glass and some antiques, and I said I would help her for a little while, and one thing led to another, and that develops into a glass gallery. But before that happened, and perhaps one of the things that led to that, I did a weekend course with another glass artist, and there was another student who was called Susanna, and she wanted to dribble glass all over the place like that. And it's absolutely the most you can draw in hot glass, except that the glass and the properties of the glass are such that, you know, that it'll just, you know, this is like spaghetti, really. But I do remember being fascinated by the actual visual aspect of it and thinking about how beautiful it was just to see the glass sparkling and moving in this sort of volatile way. I noticed that as you develop your skill base and you become a better craftsman, there is a risk that you lose the beautiful naivety that you get from glass, which is so spontaneous. And every piece that you make, you get to be a better craftsman, and there is this risk that you lose yourself as an artist in some ways. So I started developing in my work lots of random elements. In actual fact, if you look at this body of work, the landscape series, there's a huge random element in that, in the sense that I'm trying to achieve something that's impressionistic, but I can't control it, or rather I don't allow myself to control it, and I always try to build something slightly random in to challenge myself. This is 100% pure silver leaf, and I'm going to cover it with silver leaf. And then just press that down with a Kevlar sleeve and heat it up again. And then I'm going to take that back to the bench and just burnish it with a wet newspaper pad. Let's blow a little bit more. And now I'm going to color that. The colors don't always pick up quite the way you expect. And now we're going to turn this around on what we call a punty. And we're going to transfer it on the count of 3. So 1, 2, 3. And then warm that up over here. So these are shears that I've had for about 20 years. They're the best shears in the world. And there is a shearing. So with this body of work, it's called the Fantasy Jewel series, I'm actually using what you might call found objects. All of these elements in here are colored elements that would have been discarded. Bits of glass that shearings and end pieces, every piece that you make with color, when it breaks off the iron and cools down, there are lumps of color, and some of these are just very beautiful. I choose the ones I like the look of at that point, and I'll lay them all out on a steel table. And when you do that, you're creating a beautiful pattern. And that pattern will bear no relationship to the actual finished piece, because then I'll prepare the first stage of the blown vessel and then drizzle hot glass onto the steel table that's got all these bits of color. But what I'm specifically doing is building in elements of chance and elements of difficulty, shall we say, random elements, so that there is something almost like a big bang that happens, because as you drizzle on these lumps, the heat of the glass will attach and fuse onto some, but others will just explode off. So these pieces are almost creating themselves in the sense that there's that random element. Then I have to roll the bubble onto that to pick it up like a bird's nest almost. At the point that you then take the whole piece to start melting it into the surface, more pieces will explode off. And so this is very much like Jackson Pollock in hot glass, as it were. So at the moment I couldn't get a punty on that base, so I've got to flip this up this end. So now we're going to put that on a punty. So and on the count of 3, 1, 2, tap it and transfer it. So now what we're going to do is we're going to use a torch to just make sure that all those bits have actually melted in and that we don't have any tiny bits that are going to break off. So now I'm pulling that neck to raise it up taller. So that's pretty well done now. Now what we need to do is just warm it over so that we can just have another look to see if there's anything cracked inside with the lattice. There we are. Touch wood, I'm very pleased with that one. One of the things that you might notice is that within the whole making process, there's this incredible fluidity of the medium, and glassmakers are completely spoiled because we indulge ourselves in the sense that we're actually seeing throughout the whole process beautiful shapes that we actually go through, and so they're just momentary. And you go past those shapes and you lose that fluidity, and we end up with what we call the frozen moment, and it's just one stage in the whole process. That's the beauty of the medium. So we're very lucky in that sense, and I hope you've enjoyed seeing that happen.